How long does a story like this take you for that first draft?
Okay, so we're using draft in like the loosest sense of the word.
Sure.
The loosest sense. Maybe a couple months, but it might not have an ending, right? It didn't have that whole third character it needed. So I would say each draft takes between 2 and 3.5 months, probably. And then I take a break.
What does that look like in terms of your daily writing activity?
Yeah, so depending on where I am, so this is all before I get to like just revision, and that might look differently, but I will usually set a weekly goal of words. So usually my weekly goal is 7,500. Usually I do more than that, but sometimes I don't, with a 5,000 word minimum. So it's like, I mean, unless I get like really, really sick, but let's say I come down with something for like a 24-hour bug or something, like that's fine. I'm not going to write. Let's say I have to be a minute, but I still want to hit a minimum of 5,000 words for the week, kind of no matter what, but really 7,500 for the week, which is, and then, but that also doesn't include time I might spend researching or, doing other writing related stuff, or maybe drafting on the side. At the same time, I lie to myself, like I will write, and then I will literally write in all caps, this isn't working, how about this? And I might rewrite the dialogue. If I need the boost, I will count those as words. So like I might get to 8,500 or 9,000 words for the week, but some of those words are definitely coming out because they are literally all caps notes to myself. But with writing, as you said, you have to do it for yourself. And sometimes you have to trick yourself because it's really hard. And if that helps you feel good about getting to it next week, give yourself the grace you need to get to the next week is my philosophy. But I do that. So I will usually write during the day because I don't work outside the home. And so that's the best time. But sometimes the days are busy. And if I have to write in the evening or on the weekend, actually, I usually write on the weekends, but if I have to not go out to dinner sometimes because I'm like, I've got to hit my word counter, I've got to get this done. I do that. Like when I'm writing and I have those counts, I take them quite seriously. And I sort of do that till I get to the end of the draft, which is, usually, and as there might be weeks I don't do it. There also might be weeks I do a lot of research, for example, or I realize like this is a mess structurally, but I really want to go back and redo this structurally. And so that, or I cut out those notes and suddenly my word counts dropped a lot because 300 of those words for that day weren't real words. And then I have to, and then I'll make myself add it up. But then I get that done. And then I just try to do something else for like a couple months, maybe work on a different writing project, maybe do all that reading that I talked. And when I'm writing, I don't read if at all possible, because I just need to be completely immersed in the world of my book. And I found when I read, if I'm writing, I can lose my voice, like my character's voice or whatever. And so often when I'm writing, I'm just in writing mode. And then I go into like voracious reading mode, catching up with people, doing all sorts of other writing related stuff, maybe writing a shorter book, like a picture book or a chapter book. Right now, I'm trying my hand at a short story, which I also actually don't know how to write. So if you have any good recommendations on short story resources, I will take them. But like, I'll try something very different, something that just lets me clear my head so that when I come back to the next draft, I can approach it really freshly and really try to see what it needs. And I found when I try, like I've tried to take a 2-week break because I'm like, no, I have to get this done. And it's just a waste of my time. I'm too close to it to revise it well. I just can't see what it needs, or if I see what it needs, I can't figure out how to implement it. Whereas when I take the breaks, it's like, oh, of course. So
that time to get you some perspective. So if you're reading do you read when you revise or write another draft, or is it just that first draft where you have to call it quits with books?
when I don't read, so when I'm actively drafting like those couple months, I tend not to read, or unless I certainly won't read other middle grade. I might read outside, like I might read something like adult or something very different, but I really try not to read. But then like I might read 5 books a week or something a week when I'm not writing. Like I will read just like a ton when I'm not, and be like taking notes and really, really getting into it. So I found that works. But and what I might do, I'm talking about reading a book straight. So let's say there's like a text where I'm like, this was really helpful for me to understand, like what we were talking about before. I might have a book where I'm rereading a chapter or two to try to understand how they did it and doing that kind of reading, sort of like a mentor text analysis. But I'm talking about reading just like where I'm taking in a book for the first time. I won't do that while I'm writing because my brain, it's hard for my brain to work kind of on both cylinders.
Do audiobooks make that any easier? Or nope, that's just the same problem.
No, same problem. Because it's really about me holding on to the voice of the book and the voice of, you know, the characters. And I start subconsciously, it's like, I don't know if you've ever, you know, if you go somewhere else and you start taking on a little bit of the accent of that region just by being around it. I feel like that's a little bit like when I'm reading other books, especially if they have a strong voice, I might, you know, just slip in a little bit of that in a way that, I mean, it's honestly, it's a tribute to the other book that it's so gets in my head so much, but it's probably not the best thing for my writing in terms of what I'm trying to, the project I'm trying to execute. That is also not true. As I said, that's really for like the novels I've written. You know, if I'm trying my hand at a chapter book that I could totally read when I was writing that. I'm not sure why, but maybe because I feel like the books I've written, the world is like it's somewhat different. It's sort of somewhat all encompassing. I just have to kind of let my brain just be there. And that's also part of the reason I do take long breaks between my books. I mean, one, I think I revise much better, but also like, you know, not reading and being like, no matter what, I have to hit this goal and all of that. Like that's only fun for a little while. Like it's fun when you're doing it, but usually by the time I get to the end of the draft, usually about a week or so before I get to the end of the draft, I'm like, okay, yeah. I've really got to fit it. Like I am reaching the end of my endurance, but then I take a long break and then I'm like, okay, let's do this again. And then, you know, the process goes on.
So how many drafts did the View from the Very Best House in Town take you from start to finish before you're getting editors involved? And
yeah, I like 5. So I had a draft for
2
so
months
I
at a time.
Pardon?
Is that each for about 2 months at a time, or
so some were longer, some were, yeah. So maybe, and then 5, and then maybe 1 with my agent, although that wasn't as significant, or that wasn't like a rewrite. It was working on specific chapters. So yeah, some of them though like took longer, like the draft where I was really honing in on like who's telling what from what point of view. But then I also, so I actually, that one, I'm counting it as 1 draft, but I actually, in my notes, I have like draft 4 and draft 4.5. So you could count those as 2, because what I did, and I don't know, have you interviewed Laura Chauvin? She wrote The Last Fifth Grade of Emerson Elementary, and she writes in verse, but The Last Fifth Grade of Emerson Elementary, I think, has 18 points of view. And I attended a workshop with her. And she talked about pulling out like each point of view separately. So I think I wrote it, but then I did kind of a draft where I pulled out, you know, all the Sam chapters and read them through, just to make sure the voice and the arc and everything just in that, like that they could stand alone kind of as a group. And then I pulled out all the Asha chapters and did the same. And then I pulled out all the Donnybrook chapters and did the same. So I wasn't, I mean, it took a while. I thought it would be quick. That took, I mean, so I think the draft of that draft took maybe 4.5 months if you include both sections. It was like 3 months of drafting, but then another month of a half of really making sure each character's point of view, you know, was kind of the same thing I said about I can't really read someone else's work. If I'm drafting Asha and Sam at the same time, am I slipping in there, you know, am I crossing voices a little bit? Am I using one phrase, one phrase that the other one might use, and the other. Does that make sense? Am I putting a little bit of Asha's voice in Sam's chapter or vice versa? So I really wanted to take some time to really be careful that, if I'm writing separate points of view, that they were distinct. So yeah, about 2-3 months. But as I said, like after a while, so that I remember I finished that one. I thought I'd finish it in May. It actually finished in June. And I was like, okay, take me on vacation somewhere. I'm done.